And I feel like also your whole life, interviewing all these amazing people and incredible women as well, athletes, you probably, I'm sure, have met with a lot of athletes who kept breaking glass ceilings, kept breaking standards and norms in the culture and society that we live in. So I was wondering, what were some of the greatest lessons or greatest stories even that you have from all these women, or even from your personal experience working as a broadcaster?
I was chatting with a friend who has a nonprofit. One of the advisors for her nonprofit told her to stop attaching the word female to her occupation. You shouldn't have to differentiate. Like, if you're a journalist, you're just a journalist. Stop saying female journalist. You should be able to own your occupation or designation by virtue of your skill and who you are. Sadly, you automatically close windows because people perceive you as female before they perceive you as, say, a journalist or a writer. It's like, I've never actually heard it put that way, and it makes a lot of sense. And your gender shouldn't walk into the room before you, I guess. Women are super objectified. I think at the beginning, when I started my career, for me, it was just part of the package. So you have to take that because that's just the way things are. But I think as I got older, I actively resisted being pigeonholed into that sort of mold, into that sort of role, because I wasn't comfortable with it. I have a lot to say. I have a lot that I can offer that isn't only how I how I present myself or how I look on cam. And maybe I closed some doors because of that, because I refused to actively participate in that. But I think also that's part of the reason why there were some points in my career where I feel like I could have advanced more, but I didn't because I didn't want to play that game. So definitely, yeah, the fact that you're a female, it's always gonna come before you yourself. You're always objectified.
Yeah. But I think also what you did, which is to kind of stand down and not participate in that, is one of the ways that we get to empower women in general. If you start it with yourself, like as an individual, as a female, I'm gonna stand my ground. And even if it means that it's gonna cost me this advancement in my career, I'm not gonna do it, because the bigger picture is to empower women that will go after me and tell them and show them that, you can make it in life. If you have that kind of, I guess, belief in your capability and in your belief system that it's okay to not take that 3 steps forward and take that 1 step forward instead, that in itself is women empowerment.
It requires a lot of women doing that, though, to really change the system. I mean, it may not be the easiest path, to be completely honest. You have to do what feels right for you, and you have to do it, and you have to stand by what you believe in and stand up for it. And it's difficult. It's such a complicated discussion, really, because you have to a certain extent play the game, but you also have to set boundaries that you are comfortable with. And that in itself, the act of setting those boundaries, is empowering.
It's also about not shaming other women for the choices that they've made,
Yes, yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes naman, there's those two extremes, right? Those who are willing to compromise and those who are not willing to compromise, talagang resist. And the worst thing that you could do is to stand for your own beliefs and then shame another woman for saying na hindi, but this is what works for me. This is the kind of life that I want to live. And that in itself, we don't know that we're being pitted against each other and tearing each other down without us even knowing it.
One thing I've learned in doing What Glass Ceiling is that women empowerment, is not necessarily objective. It's very subjective. Everyone has a different story, and we all gain strength. We all empower ourselves in different ways. There are all these different nuances, different angles to look at in terms of empowering women. It doesn't help also that we get pitted against each other, and that we fall into a trap of judging other women based on how society operates. And honestly, I freely admit it that I've fallen into that trap. I think we all have, because it's how it is the norm through which we move, that we have to check ourselves and have to check what we think and what we say, and say, hey, that is not the direction that I want to move in. My thoughts shouldn't be moving in this direction. I shouldn't be saying that. But I think we're all also guilty of falling into it. It's awful. It's really terrible that we tear each other down as well.
Yeah. And I think also it's easier to judge other women than to empathize with them.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so easy to fall into that trap, because society kind of brings you up to look at that, judging other women and hating on other women, and seeing their life choices and kind of saying, I'll do better than that person, because, or have that ego, right? It's easier to do that than to empathize with them and say, hey, you know what, we're all multifaceted, complicated human beings just trying to find our way around life.
Yeah.
And it's twice as difficult because you're a woman, twice as difficult because you're the one who menstruates, you're the one who gets pregnant, you're the one who's required to do all of these things and fit to certain molds that men may not have to, men may not be required to. I'm not saying that they don't have difficulties as well, but there are just specific things that no matter, and here's the thing, no matter how many times you try to explain to another man, they will never understand it.
Yeah.
And it's only us women who will get it. Na, I get that.
Yeah.
I may not have experienced that, but I get that.
Yeah.
I see why that would happen.